Hello, and welcome again to A Spot of Positivity. I'm going to have a sip of my tea in my kind of slightly wonky camera here. Enjoy the moment. So, I have had a little break, I think, from my story about my son who had basically a diabetic coma thing happen in February. Here we are in April, well into April, and I'm kind of sharing a bit of my story, but I had a little bit of break because I was really I'm doing a Greek course here, and I had my final exam yesterday. So that's going to free me up a little bit from focusing on my studying. I'm going to keep on studying Greek, but have a little pause here in the pressure of it. So last time I shared with you, I talked a little bit about what it was like. I had a friend in the ICU unit. I got to know, and then her daughter who was there had passed away, which was really awful. And so that little phase was over of knowing this lady, and she was really so sweet and helpful. And then knowing I wasn't going to see her again unless we just somehow cross paths again. And I wanted to just say to her something like, really think about you a lot, and just something, I wanted to say something without a pressure for her to get back to me, but I wanted to say that, it meant a lot to me what she had done. So hopefully through some wonderful coming together or something someday that I'll meet her again, because I don't have any of her contact details. So I hope for that. After that, I think that was about the Friday or something, and he'd been in since Wednesday or something like that. It's only a few days that I knew her. They started to ease up on David's sedation, probably about the Saturday. So we were going through this process, and I would have friends on the phone, like David's friends. I'd have them say something, a little message. I would put it by his ear, and there was no way to know whether he could hear or anything, whether he was listening to it. He was very much out of it. But for some reason, it felt so good to be with him. We were saying things to him and singing to him and speaking to him just like he was really there with us. Because, of course, we've all heard stories of people in comas who remember afterwards. And we were hoping and praying that he would somehow have a memory of this stuff. And our minds and our hearts were always on a really good outcome for the whole thing. And of course, anything could have happened. We knew that, but that wasn't where we were focusing. We weren't trying to think of every worst case scenario right then. We were actually focusing and expecting a good outcome. And we, of course, had lots of people praying. And that was the direction we were going. So we would sit there and talk to him and expect good things. And like, sometimes he'd make a little noise, and moan and groan a bit when he heard his friends' voices. And as I said, I didn't have a clue what he would say or what he would remember when he came out of it. But they began to slightly diminish, like whatever drugs were making him sedated. So it was like a kind of crossover between a coma and sedation in that time. And not that I know all the medical stuff. I don't know if I mentioned we had a lovely doctor who had been trained in Britain, and she was really, really helpful. Talked a lot to us about things, what things they were looking at. They were concerned with his brain, because it hadn't been like quite a smooth sailing for him to come out of his coma. So they did various scans on his brain, and I don't remember which order they were in. A CT scan, MRI, and a and EEG, all different times. And they were concerned, but they said that it was looking actually okay. They just wanted to be sure. And they never said to us, oh my goodness, we're like really, really concerned here. They just said, we're just checking this thing out. We're just checking that thing out. And at the same time, David was starting to get this lady come in and do physiotherapy with him, which was hilarious because he wasn't awake. And so I just called her his personal trainer. And here she came. She was great. She was so sweet. And I think she just moved his limbs around a bit to keep him from getting, like, I don't know, stuck in one place. And so that was his personal trainer, and she'd come in for a while and do stuff with him. And one such time when I was there with him, she said, what I want you to do is start to take his hands and touch his face and just put his hands in different parts of his body, move his limbs back and forth a little bit, so he can start to feel a little more what it feels like for his hands to touch things. So he starts to kind of regain sensation, and they were just slowly reducing this sedation. So it was kind of fun to do that because you felt like you're part of a process that was going to go somewhere. And then she called to him a little bit, David, and sometimes he started to kind of seem to respond. She'd say, he's just not ready. I'll just say later on, when we talked to David, he said he remembers a feeling of being so tired and trying to open up his eyes sometimes, and he just couldn't. So I think that physiotherapist's words of he's just not ready were such words of hope when we could have felt like, oh my goodness, something terrible could happen. And it just really felt good. And so in that time, we started to really grab hold of the process in a new way, that something was happening and he was going to be okay. And again, played him lots of music. When Chris was in there in the evenings, he started to feel like he was really connecting with David. And David began to do a little more every night. I think that weekend it was just a little more. Never quite there, just sometimes his eyes would open a little bit and he'd respond, and you'd not big time respond, but something, and then he would close his eyes again. And it was, you could have felt that point that, oh my goodness, how long is this going to go on for? But it felt like we were moving somewhere with it, and it was going to be okay. And meanwhile, of course, I'd go home in the evenings and do my thing, and home to the flat we were staying at. And Chris would go, we'd go and spend time in the evenings with David. And again, Chris came home always feeling like good things were happening with David, and it was going to be okay. And we were, feeling quite hopeful. I was trying to study Greek at the same time, and on the one hand, it was a lot to concentrate on. I had days where I couldn't really concentrate. But on the other hand, you might say that it gave me something to focus my mind on when I wasn't in the hospital. And I don't know if I needed that or not, but I kept on going with it. And here I am at the end of it. So I feel a bit like I did it, and it's worth celebrating, because I know that it was really hard going, and even subsequently to finish the course, because it was an intensive course, like 4 days a week, 3 hours a night during this time, plus studying time. So we just kept on going with it, and I'm done. So I'm feeling pretty good right now today. So I'll let you know the next installment, what happened next and how we got on with things. So thanks very much for listening to A Spot of Positivity. Get yourself a cup of tea. Enjoy your day. And I'll see you next time.